It's a beautiful thing. Report. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, criminal investigations into these two guys, these two swamp rats. On the right, former CIA Director of National Intelligence John Brennan in the Obama administration. And on the left, of course, that is Jim Comey, the snake of all snakes from the FBI. Wow. Is that too harsh? I don't think so. He created this false flag operation that Donald Trump was a Russia spy, and his own people very, very close to him, were openly talking amongst themselves and others that they were going to stop President Trump's election. He's not ever going to become president, right? No, he won't. We will stop it. We'll stop it, the FBI. Are you kidding me? You people work for us. Thank God President Trump won. But this is sick stuff, what they did. But again, the breaking news, essentially, a criminal investigation into these two guys. And, if they get arrested and if they get convicted, they'll have themselves to blame. Number one, I believe they did it. They did bad stuff, the Crossfire Hurricane and a lot of other things. And they also blabbed about it a lot. They wrote books about it. They got onto stage and they bragged about it. Here's Jim Comey bragging about setting up what they call a perjury trap for General Flynn, back when he was the national security advisor in a brand new Trump White House. Watch.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine two FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration, in the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration. In both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over.
What a tough guy, huh? I'm just going to send a couple of G-men over there. And he said something. I probably couldn't have gotten away with it in another administration. But since the whole establishment was against Trump, I could pull this off and get away with it. Interestingly, the reason why he got fired, really the real reason why he got fired, nobody caught this. In 2017, next slide, please, he complained that the election of President Trump actually made him nauseous. This is overlooked, but that's what he's getting at, that Trump himself made him nauseous.
Look, this is terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election.
It's not talking about, the FBI and maybe having a press conference swayed voters. No, nauseated by President Trump, that would be his legacy. And maybe it is. Maybe he helped all those crazy press conferences and all the crafty stuff that he was up to. I mentioned his book, A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies, and Leadership. Well, he outs himself in the book because they always brag. They always want to claim credit for what they did, even when it's corrupt. The Steele dossier, right? An inherently untrustworthy document. They knew it was trash. They knew where it came from. Hillary Clinton paid for the thing. So this guy pays President Trump a visit and talks about it, tries to use it as leverage. He's talking about a meeting in 2017 during the transition. There was a real chance that Donald Trump, politician and hardball deal maker, yes, would assume I was dangling the prostitute thing over him to jam him, to gain leverage. He might well assume I was pulling a J. Edgar Hoover, because that's what Hoover would do in my shoes. An eyebrow raise didn't quite do this situation justice. It was really going to suck. He likes saying words like that. Ooh, he's just a regular guy. President Trump just said, do I look like the guy who needs prostitutes? He didn't accuse him of any of that stuff, J. Edgar Hoover, but he just outed himself. He was using it as leverage over a president and trying, I believe, to undo the inauguration, to get rid of him even before he could get sworn in. On CNN, again, he thinks sometimes nobody else is watching but his friends. Check this out.
People have to understand what's at stake. Donald Trump cannot return to that Oval Office.
Why not? What if more people vote for him? This is in June of 2024. What happened in the following month, a year ago? The assassination attempt. He cannot become president. The why is going to come, actually, what he's really worried about.
The threat that's created by Donald Trump lying about an effort by the FBI to allegedly assassinate him, that's crazy and dangerous stuff that will resonate in disturbed minds. And there are a lot of disturbed minds out there.
I think he has one of them. No, this is real stuff. And it's very eerie to me that he's talking about assassination of a presidential candidate right before he gets almost assassinated. Isn't that wild? Next.
They're caught in the last days of a cult, which I gather the unwinding of a cult is always very, very messy and angry because these people are dealing with cognitive dissonance that's off the charts, right? They know that they're speaking on behalf of someone who's a really bad guy. They know they're echoing his lies.
They know. Why? His loyalties come. He's not loyal to the Constitution. He's not loyal to the people. He's loyal to the Bureau, the institutions. The institutions, he says it in one of these sound bites. Keep going.
We are faced with a very difficult time where the institutions are threatened. We must remember that's what's on the ballot in November.
The institutions are threatened. Oh, God forbid the institutions are threatened. The FBI, the CIA, those institutions are not in the Constitution, by the way, all right? There's something, he says it out loud, and he's scared that what is happening would happen because it deserves to happen. One more?
Do you believe that Donald Trump will come after you personally if he's reelected?
Maybe. I mean, he spent 4 years coming after me. I think all I ended up with was a $400 tax refund, which is great. I guess I overpaid my taxes.
Well, what I don't like about that is he knows how the game is played. He can defend himself. He's got the resources. You know who didn't? The January 6ers. And they took such advantage, all in an effort to cancel a political movement and a president. Next.
I don't worry about me. I have the resources and the friends, and I know how things work. I can defend myself. I really worry about the people who have less of that than I do, the people making the cases, the career civil servants who are prosecutors and judges who are the bedrock of our rule of law. They are the people who will be most at threat.
They're not the bedrock. Prosecutors and judges, unelected people, are the bedrock of everything. No, the elected, the institutions not elected, but they're the most important. This guy must be investigated, is being investigated criminally, and I don't know, maybe we get him on this thing too. Just throw it in. It's not the worst thing he did, but it's one of them, 8647. We can also get him on wearing weird T-shirts. Who does this stuff? Look at these get-ups he puts himself in. It's just kind of silly, right? Anyway, you can wear, that's not a reason to dislike Jim Comey, his T-shirts, but they are pretty silly. It's the corruption. It's the undermining of democracy. It's going after President Trump. I believe all of these things, and I think it will ultimately be borne out in a court of law. Stay tuned. All right, next, please.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. My shoes.
Watch out.
Kind of amazing. 1 year ago this weekend, July 13th, 2024. I think that's this coming Sunday. A new book is out today by Selena Zito. Butler, the untold story of the near assassination of Donald Trump and the fight for America's heartland. I have my copy. I'm through about 3 chapters so far, and it is fascinating. Congratulations to Selena. She'll be joining us in just a little bit. We need this book because as huge a story as this was, it faded really quick. When President Trump pumped that fist, this was an iconic moment. And quite frankly, it made him look great and made the government look really bad. and also made Democrats and all the horrible things they said, maybe, I don't know, co-conspirators. So the story disappeared kind of fast. Yeah, there were investigations, but they weren't terribly impressive. And I don't know, people like this are still walking around with big multi-million-dollar jobs. Anybody remember the director of the Secret Service at the time? A person named Cheadle, as in cheat?
Should that roof have been secure, period?
That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point. And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
Sounds a little panicky, right? Yeah, in part because she's lying. How could she say something like that? Secret Service personnel were on the roof, on that red barn, which was more angle than that AGR building where they found crooks ultimately. This is a crazy thing, and it has not been sufficiently investigated. She was on Capitol Hill once. Can I see her again on the ABC News show, right? Who is she? Where did she come from? Well, this is suspicious. Okay, here she is early in her career. And who did she hang around with? Huh? Who's the guy on her right? Keep going, please. Dick Cheney. I think right there, someone's got to be brought in for questioning. I get a bad feeling about that. Who else did Kimberly hang out with throughout her career? I know she had a job, on the detail and that kind of thing, but they hand-selected her to be the director of the Secret Service after she had already retired and was working for like some soft drink company. That's crazy. Biden and Cheney, what do they have in common?
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump.
And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Trump is a threat to this nation.
So what do you do with a threat to the nation? If you take an oath to uphold, protect, defend the Constitution of the United States, all enemies, foreign and domestic, they have basically designated President Trump a domestic enemy. And what's the remedy for that? They're authorizing, I believe, violence against the president. And that's what I think happened. It's fascinating. Biden said that just a couple of days before, I think the day before, crooks opened fire on Trump. The January 6th committee hearing did not look into one bit of the security failures or anything that went wrong and the cops and why Ashley Babbitt was shot and all that stuff and the doors left open. All they wanted to know was the rhetoric, right? What Donald Trump said about the election, as if that provoked the riot. That is totally absurd. Yet, when they had the hearings into the assassination attempt, it was all about tactics and angles and weapons and, who was doing their job and who wasn't, but nothing about the rhetoric that pervaded all across America about President Trump. And not just by some, creeps on X, but by people like Liz Cheney.
What would a second Donald Trump term look like?
Well, he cannot be the next president. And I think there's no question. I mean, a man as dangerous as Donald Trump can absolutely never be anywhere near the Oval Office ever again. I feel confident that he will never be president again.
I will do everything I can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office.
Anywhere near the Oval Office. I think that means like he can't be even up for election on election day, because that's pretty damn close to the Oval Office, right? So they got to take care of him way before the election. And what happens? This guy shows up just by himself. Okay. And he shows up with a rangefinder and a suspicious backpack, and he's hanging around for hours. And they just watch the guy. They just gossip about him. They just gossip about him for 2 hours. Here he is, a potential assassin. Can you imagine gossiping about Lee Harvey Oswald in the book Depository for hours? 2 people saw him like 30 seconds prior. Hey, who is that guy? It's crazy and it doesn't make sense.
Information. Truth is freedom. is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.